What is up, everybody, and welcome to another video. In today's video, I just finished shooting with Brandon. We just got some B-roll done for the Medusa review, which will probably be out soon, if it's not already out by the time this video comes out, because I have a couple other flips that are scheduled to come out before this one, including the really big collection video one that took me literally an hour and a half or so to record. I don't know exactly how long it is, but it's a very long one. But yeah, we're at a really interesting location today. This is just a nature park that we found nearby, and it is utterly gorgeous. It is a beautiful nature park. There's a lot of really pretty stuff happening here, and it's very traversable too, if that makes any sense. Like, you can walk around all the rocks here and kind of get most places that you'd want to hang out at this nature park on foot over the rocks, which is pretty cool. But yeah, it's a really beautiful park. It's a really, really nice place. But I wanted to talk about something that Brandon and I were just having a conversation about before he left just a moment ago, because it's kind of been on our minds, and I think it's been on a lot of people's minds, and I think it's interesting. And you've read the title, so you probably know already, but it's about AI. You know, AI is a very interesting thing because the technology has a lot of potential positives to it, right? There's a lot of potentially cool stuff that AI can do and a lot of interesting problems that AI can solve. But at the same time, AI is also terrifying because there's a lot of things that we don't know about it that it will sort of disrupt. And I know this terminology is used a lot in the tech community in terms of disrupting. You know, this new technology is disrupting this sector of the market or whatever. Like, it's a very capitalist word, disruption, used in that way. But I don't think about it as a positive thing a lot of the time. Instead, a lot of the disruption I think we're going to experience is stuff that we're really not prepared for, because I think it's going to disrupt at the most our economy more than anything. And the reason I say that is because AI is just something that is relatively inexpensive other than the computational power compared to human labor in a lot of ways. That can have to do with machine vision stuff and utilizing AI to create art, right? AI art generators, which are essentially... How they work is very complicated, but they're all predicated on using training data created by human artists. And so there is an inherent advantage to an AI artist than an actual artist, because it's already stolen all of this data from, you know, hundreds of thousands of artists. You can make a comparison between, oh yeah, well, an artist looks at, you know, hundreds of thousands of pictures over their lifetime, and that's how they develop their own artistry. But I would also argue that a child, you know, will look at the world, and if you give them crayons, they will draw something. Whereas a AI that has no training data will literally not create anything. And so there is an inherent difference between the way humans create and the way AI creates. And also, I would say that it's very different having a experience of looking at a lot of things and having a quite literal data set of hundreds of terabytes of images created from artists that can all be essentially broken down into their bare mathematical parts. That just isn't something that humans do. Like, that there is no correlation between the way an AI creates art and the way a human creates art. But even with these moral quandaries, and even with the potential legal battles that are ensuing and will ensue due to training data sets and stuff like that, at the end of the day, these AI will be used by mega corporations to create art at a much cheaper rate than before. And there's a lot of things that can be displaced by this, but not just art. Currently, there's AI being worked on that can create music from scratch. There's AI being worked on that can fix sound and create dialogue from scratch. These are industries that we would never have thought were disruptable before, right? Because they require something to happen in the physical world to be recorded. So one thing that I find interesting, right, is like these videos is a great example. You could automate these videos using currently available technology. You could just take, because you can't see my mouth in these videos, but to be fair, even if you can see someone's mouth, there's already AI that can take a pre-existing video and then take an audio file and make the person's mouth move in the pre-existing video to the new audio file. So, you know, I don't know how much it actually matters whether or not you can see my mouth, but imagine if you took my library of videos, you can train an AI now to replicate someone's voice with only 30 seconds of them talking. You can take a 30-second long clip of someone talking and replicate their voice using that clip. That's insane. And it can do a shockingly good job of replicating someone's voice in that time period. So you could replicate my voice with AI, take pre-existing videos that already exist, overlay the AI created voice, and you could create new scripts for these videos by feeding it the transcripts from my old videos, putting that into a software like ChatGPT, and then create wholly new videos. And then you have an infinite well of Will Hirsch Flips content. Isn't that great? Except that content is inherently soulless in a way because, well, nobody's actually really making it. But the problem is, does anyone really care, right? Because currently the most viable things in terms of capital are already soulless. The movies, the entertainment that we watch, the biggest YouTubers like Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast has made it very clear since the beginning that he is not doing this because he wants to create good content. He's doing this because he wants to be the biggest YouTuber of all time. His content doesn't have a soul, it has a projected metric that he's aiming for. He's not trying to do something to create art. He's trying to create metrics. And that's where a lot of these problems sort of lie. And so it's like, sure, yeah, the Will Hirsch Flips AI channel would be soulless. But does that actually matter to people, really, at the end of the day? Or do people just want content? Or even more than that, maybe it does matter to people, but maybe it doesn't matter to the people feeding you that content. And maybe they're not going to tell you that it doesn't have soul, because all it has to do is pretend to have soul. All you need to do is fix the blindness for 1,000 people in a surgery that takes 10 minutes, and it seems like you've done a wonderful thing. When in fact, why was it that people needed to pay for that surgery at all if it only takes 10 minutes and is a completely preventable and curable disease? Why isn't that something that we're just paying for already? These are the problems that become even more intrinsic when we talk about AI and how it's going to disrupt the markets. Currently, if you ask somebody what is the thing to get into right now in terms of a job market, most people would tell you, or at least for the past 10 years, maybe even longer than that, people would tell you, oh, the thing to get into if you want to have a long-standing, successful career is computer science. Learn to code and you will have a long-standing career, because we will always need people to write the code that the computers use. Well, guess what? ChatGPT and the other generative AI programs that create text can write code, and they're only getting better at it. And I foresee within 10 years, probably much faster than that, but I'm going to give it a 10-year timeline, we're going to get to the point where it will be much more cheap and much more profitable to use AI to write the foundations of the code for whatever your service is than it would be to use actual human beings. And currently, the tech industry is one of the largest sectors of America's GDP in its entirety. It makes up for so much of the wealth equity of the United States at all. So many people work in tech, and all of the richest Americans, like many of them, are in the tech industry. But here's the thing, the richest ones, they'll be fine because they own the tech companies. The people that won't be fine are the people that are in the middle class that are actually making what would be considered a pretty good salary. You know, the kind of thing where you'd say, oh, that person is a millionaire, so they are rich. But really, at the end of the day, nowadays, having $1 million seems like a lot of money, but it really isn't, especially when compared to people that have literally billions and billions and billions of dollars. The difference between $1 million and $1 billion is the difference between 1 penny, which weighs almost nothing, and 1,000 pennies, which could kill you if they were to fall on you. Like, the difference between $1 million and $1 billion is 1,000-fold. There are 1,000 millions in $1 billion. It is so much money. It is insane. It is such an insane difference that you can't even begin to formulate it in your head in any, like, convincing or good way. So what this is to say is that even the people who seem very well off could be out of a job because it is seen as more profitable to not use humans to write all of the code that we need. And so no longer is it, oh yes, if you want to have a good long-standing career, well, get into coding. That doesn't stand anymore. Now we have AI that can write that code. And now hundreds of thousands of people could potentially be out of a job within 10 years. But it goes past that, because not only can it write the code, but you could have an AI, because the problem is right now you need someone who understands the code base. You need to have humans on staff that understand the code base and can explain problems or understand why problems are having, and then fix those problems, right? You need staff for that. You at least need some senior developer who can say, well, this is how this works, so this is how we're going to fix it. Well, if we're training AI to write code, we can also train AI to explain code in standard English. You can have an AI where you only need like one person at a company who says, well, what's the problem? And then the AI explains the problem to the person, and then they say, well, how can we fix it? And then the AI explains the fix, and then they implement the fix. Or the more honest version of this is that we'll get to the point where the automation happens so quickly that the AI both detects, understands the problem, and then writes the solution before any human involvement happens. Like, that is a point that we can get to, and probably will, relatively quickly. Here's another way of looking at this. I work in the film industry as a sound mixer. My entire job is to record high-quality sound of people talking, okay? And I want to avoid things in the background, like this running water. This is a problem because it is loud and it overtakes the dialogue, and so you want to avoid problems like that and have the cleanest dialogue possible. Well, here's the thing. Adobe Podcast AI exists. And if you use Adobe Podcast AI, which actually I'm going to do it in this video. This is going to take extra editing work, but check this out. Right now, this is Adobe Podcast AI. I'm currently talking with all of this water around me, and I can get really close to the water, and you'll only hear it at most as a background element. And suddenly my voice sounds like I'm standing in a studio in front of a microphone. And if I turn off the Adobe Podcast AI, you can hear immediately the difference. And that's all I'm going to do for the example there. But the reason that that works is not because it is removing the noise. Instead, what the podcast AI is doing, it is not removing noise, it is recreating the speech from scratch. It is listening to the voice, and then recreating the frequencies of the voice as though they were recorded through a much better professional microphone in a studio. It sounds like it's being recorded through a Shure SM7B microphone, which is the standard podcast microphone. And it sounds like it's being recorded in a studio. And that's because they trained this on training data using an SM7B microphone. So, all of this comes around to the fact that, well, my job, which was avoiding those kinds of sounds, is now partially irrelevant. Because you can take someone's voice and pull it out of the worst of circumstances and make it completely usable using AI. And this is just the first generation of this technology that is publicly available. Just the first generation of it. And my job was to record people talking on movie sets. But if it gets to the point where that's no longer necessary, then, like, that's crazy, because I thought that I would be totally fine. I have a physically, like, existing job. My job is based off of a physical thing that you physically have to go to a location and do, and so there is no way that I can be replaced by AI. But that's simply not true. You can. Anyone can be replaced by AI to a degree. My friend who is an editor was talking to me about how they had a problematic shoot, and there's this clip that they recorded that just had lots of popping and crackling, and they were like, I don't think I can fix this. I think that this clip is just bunk, and, like, we need to re-record this. And I said, no, you can. Go to Adobe Podcast AI and put the thing in. And they did it, and it worked. And they were like, oh my God, this is crazy. And I'm like, I know, it's really cool. But at the same time, it's a little terrifying. But then they sent me a clip, and they said, well, it's really cool, but unfortunately, it can't fix this. And they showed me a clip where the guy's voice cuts in and out because the microphone just stopped connecting. It just wasn't connected anymore. And I replied back to them, well, you wouldn't be able to fix that, but actually nowadays you might be able to, because there are AI. You can just take the earlier recording of his voice, put it into the AI to replicate his voice, and then if you have a script, you can just type in what he said, and it will make new audio of him saying that again, and then you can edit that back into the clip. We're at the point where you didn't even need to actually record the audio on set at all, and you could have the person say that thing. And this is upsetting for a lot of reasons, but, like, it's just wild because it shows that anyone can be replaced. All of the people in the technology sector that thought they were absolutely safe, you can be replaced, dude. The thing that it even gets back to is, if you haven't seen Cyberpunk 2077, I highly suggest it. Specifically, the show Cyberpunk Edgerunners on Netflix. Like, the game is also very good, but it had problems upon release. But the show on Netflix is incredible. Very good anime. One of the themes in the show is that everyone is disposable. The idea of the cyberpunk society is that you have this capitalist infrastructure that is owned, this society itself is owned by massive mega corporations. These corporations own every facet of that society, and the people that work for those corporations are higher up on the ladder than the people that don't. However, the really interesting thing about Cyberpunk Edgerunners and the Cyberpunk franchise in general is that they show that no matter how high up on the ladder you are, you still don't matter. They show in Cyberpunk Edgerunners people who are considerably very high up on the ladder, and they just die in the show, and there really isn't that much of a backlash because of it. There really isn't anything protecting them at the end of the day. They were actually just disposable, no matter how high up on the branch they seemed. And that's terrifying. And it makes them seem very pitiful in those moments during the show. But here's the thing that I want to presuppose to you. In our current society, the people that own the businesses make the most money. And public businesses are beholden to their shareholders. They must they are legally required to make as much money as possible for their shareholders. These shareholders can literally sue the company for not making enough money, which is hilarious and insane and messed up for a number of reasons. But here's the thing, right? Eventually, one company, one of them, any company, I don't know which one does it first, it doesn't matter, eventually, some company will realize that it will make more money to have the CEO be an AI than to not. And the moment this happens, the first time this happens, if it actually works, if the AI is able to make the company more money than the human CEO, other companies that are publicly traded will almost immediately have a problem where the shareholders vote out the CEOs and replace them with AI, because it is more equitable and will create more capital to have an AI running the company rather than a human. Now, this sounds nuts, right? Like, this sounds crazy, the CEO not being human, but it only makes sense at the end of the day. It'll make so much more money to do that. And so that's why they do it. And so now think about this world where even the CEO of the company has been replaced. Does anybody at the company really hold any value after that point? I personally am not totally sure of that. I think that in that kind of scenario, we could be rapidly barreling towards a cyberpunk-like society where nobody matters, even the people that seem like they are at the highest edges of this corporation, because the only thing that actually matters is the corporation itself being run by an AI, generating profit and capital for its shareholders, who may also be AI by that point. So here's the thing, right? AI is an incredible technology that has the ability to change the world. We could automate anything. We could make life easier for everybody. We could make things so cheap that you don't have to pay for them anymore. We could automate everything. And think about it like this. The only society in which that is a bad thing is a capitalist society. AI is the dream for any society that actually cares about its own people, because using things like universal basic income or just making shit free because it costs so little, because we've automated everything to such a degree that you can. AI is a dream. It suddenly makes lots of things possible for all sorts of people. It could solve all sorts of problems like world hunger and homelessness. It could do so much. But instead, in a capitalist society, now the AI is literally coming for your job. And if you don't have a job, you can't make money. And if you can't make money, you cannot live. You are not supposed to survive in a capitalist economy if you cannot make money. Homeless people are a mistake and a symptom of capitalism, but they are a mistake to capitalism. They should not exist, because they shouldn't be alive at all. Because capitalism doesn't care about you. Capitalism cares about creating capital. And so AI, welcome to Will's Black Pill corner, by the way, that's what we're doing now. The AI problem is that because we are in a capitalist society, unless we can have massive changes, AI is a bad thing. AI could be a good thing, because AI could help a lot of people fix a lot of problems. But instead, we are all scared because suddenly we can't work. And if we can't work, we can't afford rent. And if we can't afford rent, we also can't afford food. And if you can't afford those two things, what do you have left? It's a very depressing metric. I really don't like it. I don't like thinking about it. It makes me upset because I believe that people should be able to afford the things that they need in life to exist. I think people should just be given the health care that they deserve to exist. If someone has curable blindness, we should absolutely, as a society, pay to cure their blindness. Why wouldn't we? I can answer that for you. Because it's not profitable to do so. And that's a problem when profit can be enhanced without the need of humanity whatsoever. A capitalist society is the one type of society that rapidly, with the introduction of AI, it rapidly barrels towards a apocalyptic scenario where the AI forgets about humanity at all and is only profit-oriented and goal-motivated. Instead, what we could have is a society where the AI is helpful to humanity, and where the AI and the goals of the AI are entwined with what humanity itself wants. But profit motivation will never be the thing that we need in that scenario. So yeah, that's my thoughts about AI. And the problems with it existing within a capitalist infrastructure. So yeah, lots to chew on there. However, I will end with this tidbit. There is one thing that makes me feel better about all of this. When I'm feeling hopeless and when I'm feeling lost, thinking about technology emerging and potentially destroying everything, right? It's a little terrifying. But at the end of the day, the thing that gives me the hope is that I can come out here to a beautiful landscape that AI cannot enjoy. And I can literally just sit here and enjoy it. There is so much to be had just from experiencing the world around you. And I'd love to be able to do it more and more. The fact that I can come out here and find a crayfish under a rock and it will make my freaking day is awesome. I think that is super cool. I really, really like it. And I hope that it can become a thing that more people can do. And so, even at the end of the day, at least I believe that experiences like this cannot and will not be shaken. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the moment. Anyways, I hope you all enjoyed this little bit of an existential video, and yeah, I guess I'll see you next time. Peace.